Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
I would have a referee in and an ex-player.
Players don't know the bloody rules, mate.
It's not about the rules.
It's one of the great myths of football. That
it's not about the rules. It's not about the rules.
Jude Bellingham was back in this squad almost on trial. Not on trial as a footballer, but on trial as a campmate. On trial as a teammate. On trial as an individual, a vastly talented individual who could buy into that collective that they've created.
I was 18 the last time we qualified for the World Cup.
1998, was it?
1998. But I sat down in the pub with the boys I was mates with, and we said, right, should we go? And we were all like, can't afford it. And we'll go to the next one. I've now got a 16-year-old son. Welcome to Whistleblowers, the podcast. As tradition dictates, I'm the BTEC Des Line, I'm Gordon Smart, and today I'm joined by Andy Dillon's Andy Dillon's support act, his hype man.
Fluffer.
His fluffer. It's Ian Ladyman. Hello, Ian Ladyman.
Hello. I expected you to be piped in today by a kind of marching band with kind of tam o'shanters and kilts and all the other Scottish cliches.
Do you know what?
Scotland at the World Cup.
I know. I thought I'd tempted fate by going to see England, New Zealand at the rugby on Saturday to support New Zealand, to see them getting pumped. And there was a lone piper outside. I thought, but you're a brave boy. I was brave. But Mark Clattenburg, I know you've got Scottish blood in you.
A little bit of Scottish blood.
Not because you had a great weekend in Benidorm, but you have got Scottish blood. And I, honestly, see, walking in today, I felt about 20 feet tall. Like Scotland.
So you should.
There is no better feeling than seeing Scotland doing well. I was 18 the last time we qualified for the World Cup.
1998, was it?
1998. Yeah. And I sat down, I've talked about this a number of times, but I sat down in the pub with the boys I was mates with, and we said, right, should we go? We'll go to Paris. We'll just hire a van and go to Paris. And we were all like, can't afford it. And we'll go to the next one. I've now got a 16-year-old son.
You know? And a very old van.
Hire a van. I know, I can't afford to hire a van again. Yeah. Too skint to go again.
There was a guy on the tube this morning wearing a Scotland scarf.
Ah, amazing.
I think, you love that. See, even as English, and forget about the rivalry, I think I love England and love watching England, but to have Scotland at the World Cup, I was so happy last night.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because that totally explodes this ludicrous myth that most people in England don't want Scotland.
Oh, what an absolute garbage.
Do you know
people last night were celebrating, and there was English people celebrating Scotland's win.
I'm pretty sure I know what the Scots think about England being at major tournaments, but from our point of view,
I hate it when England
Wales, the Irish.
I hate it when England fans say this.
But I will.
It's like being patted in your head by your uncle, and it goes,
I will just say I received a brilliant message from a friend of mine just before we came on air, which I will just read out to you.
Ian's just looking through his Nokia 6210.
Yeah, exactly. He said, enjoyed the Scots last night, and now, of course, the lunacy begins. Thousands of drunken men in kilts and sombreros wave off their heroes. They lose 1-0, own goal, to Cape Verde in their opener, despite hitting the woodwork 7 times. The second game, a 0-0 draw with Uzbekistan, is widely regarded as the most boring ever game in the history of the World Cup. Needing to win by at least 3 goals against Brazil in their final group game to have any chance of qualifying, they win 3-0, only to miss out due to a Cape Verde winner against Uzbekistan deep into stoppage time. The scorer is a postman.
I'd take that. Your friends have got too much time on their hands.
That would be more interesting than what happened at the Euros.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I have to confess, I was calling for Stevie Clarke to step aside after the Euros, because it was the best couple of weeks of my life, but the football was dreadful.
Well done, Scotland.
But you know what?
No.
Let's just talk about the goals as well. Scott McTominay's overhead kick was absolutely incredible. And I've seen some great Scotland goals, actually. James McFadden in Paris was pretty special. Sean Maloney scored a screamer at Celtic Park, which was brilliant. But not just one goal, the 3 goals. Kieran Tierney's finish, he's having a hard time back in Glasgow since he went back from Arsenal.
Amazing that he's not in the starting lineup, I thought.
He's having a rough old ride of it at the moment, apparently. And again, that finish, the ball was bobbling. Under pressure like that, just have the composure to side foot it with accuracy and precision like that. Incredible. And Kenny McLean's goal, and he had a look. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a chance just before where you could see he was sizing it up. But to execute that under pressure like that, given one of our best players, Ben Gannon, had gone off with a horrible injury by the sounds of things, to come on and play like that, and he's had a really rough ride at Norwich. He's had a crap time as a Scotland player. It just couldn't be better. And John McGinn's interview afterward, where he was just saying, well, we were crap, but this is the best thing ever.
5 shots on target.
Yeah.
4 go in.
Yeah.
3 of those 4, probably 3 of the best 3 goals
They were
Scotland have
incredible,
ever
yeah.
scored.
Great goals.
But what I laugh at, right? I was surrounded by Scottish fans last night.
Yeah.
And they were praying not to score till the 90+ minutes. I was like, why? Because if we score, we'll still have 4 or 5 minutes left. And we'll sit back. We'll end up sitting back. So it's crazy how, okay, Steve Clarke's done a great job to get to the World Cup. Yeah. But there doesn't seem to be, if you watch the style of football, I don't think, since I watched them in the Euro, there's nothing been learned. There's nothing changed.
We have not.
You score, you sit back. Yeah. You score, you sit back.
Well, because they have, with the respect, they haven't got the players to keep the ball against good teams. Would you agree, Gordon?
I think we're missing Billy Gilmore. Billy Gilmore's brilliant at keeping the ball, and I would have him starting all the time. I'd have Lawrence Shanklin starting all the time. I know Adams is doing all right at Torino, but I'd play Lawrence Shanklin. He's a form player. He's scoring every week. Hearts or tails are up. I'm just a massive believer in pick players on form in their position. Everyone's been screaming, and I'm a Hibs fan, but everyone's been screaming for Shanklin to start. And when he came on in that last game at the Euros, dynamic of the game changed immediately. And I think when all the fans are screaming for it, that Stevie Clarke can be a bit stubborn. But John McGinn admitted they hadn't been good. I thought there was quite an interesting insight from Andy Robertson afterwards as well, actually, that shows you that I think the Liverpool players are really hurting about Diogo Jota because he dedicated the match to him. And I think emotionally, actually...
Because they both missed out. They both missed out on the last World Cup. One because of not qualifying, which was Scotland, and Diogo Jota was injured for Portugal. Yeah. So it was an interesting...
I think the beauty of this Scotland game last night, as we sit here on Wednesday morning, was of all the kind of crap that surrounds football and all the ways that football changes, not always for the better, and some of the things that we sit here and moan about, it's still an incredibly beautiful game in its unpredictability. Yeah. You know, there was a point with about 20 minutes to go last night with the score at 1-1. Scotland admittedly now had a man advantage after the Danes had a man sent off. It's 1-1, and they put the shot count on the screen. It was 17-1 to Denmark at that point. And obviously Scotland's won in the 3rd minute, had gone in, and what a goal that was. But, 20 minutes later, Scotland are at the World Cup and Denmark are crying. And that's football. It's brilliant, isn't it? So how beautiful it is.
But forget about like the England group. There's certain groups, isn't it? But there's been some amazing groups this campaign, even though there's more teams going to go to the World Cup. If you look, for example, Republic of Ireland, last minute goal against Hungary, but it brings back the excitement again. Scotland game brought us because I've been watching for like international matches and sometimes you're bored.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Mark. I agree about Troy Power at the Republic. Wales have got second in the playoff. I was looking at the qualifying groups on the train this morning. There were 12 of them in Europe because of such a big World Cup. Of the 12 qualifying groups, the only group where the expected team hasn't gone through is possibly Scotland's. Yeah. You could argue that you would have fancied Denmark, and maybe the Norway-Italy group. Norway have gone through ahead of Italy. All the other top teams have gone through, and do you know how many games have lost between them? In 12 groups, the group winners have lost 4 games between.
That's not great, is it? Yeah.
But you're always going to get that, isn't it?
That World Cup qualification for the established nations is a bit of a walk.
No, but it's that second, for a chance for Wales to beat, we've mentioned Scotland. Let's not forget what Wales did last night, 7-1 against the North Macedonia team, which they've beaten Italy, and they were higher than Wales going into the game, and they get in via a playoff, which gives them a great chance if they get a lucky draw over 2 legs to qualify in March. So you've got Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Wales, already Scotland and England qualify. Yeah. What a great thing, especially before the Euros, because it's going to be a home nation Euro, isn't it? So the more chances to get into this World Cup for these countries is going to be huge.
What I would say about that, Mark, and look,
I get it. I just got excited the last couple of rounds. I enjoyed the football.
I do. We've spoken about Craig Bellingham on this podcast before. We like Craig, and we're delighted that they've done it. We look at Wales's group. Belgium, Wales, North Macedonia, Kazakhstan and Liechtenstein. Wales should be finishing second.
They should be finishing second.
Okay? They should be finishing second in that group, and they have.
I've been lucky in the last, 5 years or so to work with the Scotland team a lot. I presented a thing called Scotland HQ in the pandemic. Got to spend a lot of time with the players, and it was brilliant. I spent a bit of time at training watching them. And one thing I'd say is that team has got an unbelievable camaraderie. It's like watching a club side. They get on brilliantly. I don't think there are any bad apples in there. The atmosphere's great, and that really encourages me for what will happen in America. If they can just refine it and hone it a little bit and work a bit on what they're doing in a style of play, I think we could be in a good place. And I wish you could have sat with me last night, lads, and saw what happened on my phone as that victory happened, because there must have been 150 WhatsApp messages, pubs going bananas, pints flying everywhere, everyone arranging their transport. We'll deep fry your tacos, we're the Tartan Army and we're off to Canada and all that kind of. It's such an exciting time. And it did make me think about the England squad, and it doesn't seem to me to be a happy camp when Jude Bellingham's involved, and I thought that might be a sensible point to bring in Craig Hope, who joins us now from his bunker in Newcastle. Craig, how's the last 48 hours been since you offered some views on Jude Bellingham?
Yeah, I mean, the best news I've had that was X was down for 2 hours yesterday, which was a wonderful
Did
reprieve.
you put it down?
So, yeah. Do you know what? Ian knows this. So on Sunday before the game in Toronto, I went in a nuclear bunker, genuinely. And yesterday I felt like getting the flight back to Toronto.
Because I don't know where it's... Ian Wright's been incredibly vocal about it this week, saying he's being picked on. I mean, I worked with Wrighty at The Sun for a long time, so he understands how it works. But do you think he's got an argument? Do you think this is just the classic English media, which you hear every time there's an England game and somebody gets a bit of a bad review?
No, I don't, but I understand the historical context to it and why people maybe mind it to say that. But I think the best thing we can do on this, guys, is just to sort of retrace our steps chronologically. I think that'll simplify it for the audience and, most importantly, simplify it for me. So I'll take us back to a week past Friday at the squad announcement at Wembley, which I was at with Thomas Tuchel. Now, we arrived at that expecting Jude Bellingham to be part of the squad, which he was, and probably expecting Jude Bellingham to be the story emerging from it. Now he wasn't really, and Thomas Tuchel played it quite well, given the context of what he said in the summer, the comments about Bellingham being repulsive, his on-field demeanour, intimidating his teammates, then leaving him out of the squad the month prior, and England's success to the backdrop of all of that. We went there and thought this is going to be, the big laying down the law to Jude Bellingham, and it wasn't. And Thomas Tuchel played it really well, and we thought, you know what, he's back in, he's a good player, he's a wonderful player. Thomas Tuchel has sent a message to him. Let's just see how we go. And I think the last thing Thomas said to us was, well, Jude's coming back in. He's got to contribute, was his word, to what we've created. We have created a bit of momentum, a bit of feel good with a collective spirit. So, okay, the day after that, Jude wasn't the headlines. We then arrive at the game against Serbia on Thursday, and Jude's not in the team, but that's okay. He's kept the faith with those players who had earned the jersey, and I think that sent the right message. I then wrote a piece from the game at Wembley. I was sat next to Ian, and I was detailed to write on the battle at number 10, the keys for number 10, which is fascinating. It was a technical argument, Morgan Rogers versus Phil Foden versus Jude Bellingham. My coverage coming out of that was that Morgan Rogers actually probably hadn't done enough. I think the phrase I used at the time was to sew fabric on skin, and Jude Bellingham probably deserved to come back in. And my conclusion was, if you give Jude Bellingham that shirt on Sunday in Albania, he'll probably do enough not to ever give it up again, because he is that good a player. And I was minded to think, actually, do you know what? Everything from the summer settled down now. Let's just see Jude Bellingham, the footballer. So we arrive at the game on Sunday in Toronto. And again, for 2 or 3 days, there hasn't really been mention of Jude Bellingham. It's about the football, the technical aspects of everything. Jude plays for 84 minutes. And again, because he's back in the team, my task is to write a piece on him. I'll tell you, after 84 minutes, guys, that piece was as dull as dishwater, because nothing had really happened. He'd been okay. I think in terms of his performance, if you're analysing that in isolation, probably the best 5 moments in the match, he'd contributed to 3 or 4 of them. He played well without being wonderful. I actually thought he was a little bit of a victim of the new system Thomas Tuchel used. Rather than using him at number 10, he was in this inside right area. So it was okay, Jude's back, he's done okay. The debate still exists around number 10, but on we go. But then in the 84th minute, given he'd just been booked 2 minutes earlier, and one more yellow card that might not have been his fault, he could have been given a yellow card incorrectly, and it would have ruled him out of the opening game of the World Cup. So Thomas Tuchel quite sensibly made the decision to bring him off. He was protecting the player because he does want him for the World Cup. Now, this wasn't picked up by television, and this is part of the problem we've had in the fallout, because in the age of 2025, the world is filmed. Everything is on camera. So how can the broadcasters not capture Jude Bellingham's reaction? As I was speaking to one of the guys involved in TV, this, as a journalist, was one of those rare cases of it was an eyewitness story. So to give the audience the context, when Jude Bellingham sees Morgan Rogers stripped on the touchline and around the 83rd minute, he throws his arms towards the dugout as if to say, why? Come on, I'm okay. Okay, he's done that once. He's made his feelings known. Play then unfolds. Bellingham's actually got a part in the goal. Plays the ball to Rashford. Rashford crosses. Harry Kane scores. Bellingham celebrates with his teammates, which he does with Rashford, then with the group. Then as he's walking back to halfway, he does it again. He looks towards the dugout, towards Thomas Tuchel, and raises his arms. Why? I'm okay. He then goes and stands back in position rather than coming over to the sideline. That's okay, just waiting for his number to be raised. As he walks off, which is what everyone sees on television, yeah, he's okay. He doesn't look best pleased about it, but that wasn't the issue. It was the reaction prior to that. Now we go into the press conference. By the time he gets to the written press, he's already been asked about this by television, by radio, because I touched on earlier, everybody who was there saw it. And Thomas Tuchel has answered the question and said, well, yeah, what he clearly wasn't happy, and we're about respect. We are about those standards, that collective. So in answering the question, he's confirmed it exists. He then arrives with us, and we guys follow on, and we get a little bit more from him. He says, well, no, you can't throw your arms in the air. So it's a valid story. We've got to report that. And now in the isolation, is this just a player who is unhappy with being substituted, wants to stay on and wants to contribute? Well, okay, maybe it is. And I think that's the view some have taken. But the point is, Jude Bellingham was back in this squad almost on trial, not on trial as a footballer, but on trial as a campmate, on trial as a teammate, on trial as an individual, a vastly talented individual who could buy into that collective that they've created by doing what he did. And it was so needless. This wasn't a World Cup semi-final or a final. There were 2-0 up in a dead rubber qualifier, and the manager has done it to protect him. So to do what he did, he caused the subsequent fallout, not us, not the media. We've got to report on that. I think Ian's got an opinion on this as well. Thomas Tuchel then came at the press conference and could have actually killed it. He could have handled it in a entirely different way, but he didn't. He said, no, he wasn't happy. He threw his arms in the air. That then speaks to everything. And this is why the context is important. The comments in June about repulsive, about intimidating his teammates. Then in Belgrade, when he was clearly talking about Jude, we believe, when he said there was no eyeballing, there was no digging teammates out. Thomas Tuchel has built something, and he's very protective of that. And it's about a collective. It's about a unity. It's not about individuals upsetting that balance. And that is why there was the coverage on the back of that. It's not about my opinion. It doesn't matter what I think. This is a Thomas Tuchel, Jude Bellingham story. And that's why we reported what we did.
Fair play. Ian, what do you think? Is Jude Bellingham deserving of criticism for his petulance? As Craig's called him before, what would you call him? The Prince of Petulance?
Poster boy.
Poster boy.
No, I think I called him the brand ambassador
There you
for
go, brand
petulance.
ambassador of petulance. Accurate?
Poster boy would have been better because it would have been.
Yeah, it would have been better alliteration, wouldn't it? Yeah, but you know, that's why.
Next time.
That's why you're at the Mail Boys, not the Sun.
So look, let's not. I'm not going to go back over what Craig has outlined very eloquently there. What I will say is that underline a couple of things is that the issue with Jude Bellingham going back to Euro 2024 and beyond and into Tuchel's reign is a factual one. It's not fabricated by the media. It's not fabricated by England supporters. It's a factual one. It's a factual one. Thomas Tuchel has spoken about it in the ways that Craig has just outlined, and he's made his feelings clear in the way he's behaved. He's left him out of the squad. You speak to Tuchel at any length or over a course of time like Craig and I do, or his number two, Anthony Barry, and they talk endlessly about culture. And it's a fact that they had and have concerns about Bellingham's place within that culture, whether what he brings to it, whether it's positive, whether it's neutral, or whether it's negative. And it's beyond doubt that they have had the belief and their worries that at times it could be negative. So when you get people like Ian Wright, Rio Ferdinand, taken to social media, kind of saying, "Oh, it's unnecessary," Ian Wright is suggesting that the media are digging Jude out because he doesn't talk to us. It's just not right. It's not right. You know, those two are great pundits, great people, great athletes, but they also know, both of those, how important an environment is in the dressing room. Ian Wright played for Arsene Wenger at Arsenal. Rio Ferdinand played for Alex Ferguson at Manchester United. They know what culture is and they know what it should be. Okay, so but where I disagree with Craig, and he knows this because we spoke about it when we had dinner after the game on Sunday night by the stadium in Tirana, is that I don't think that on this occasion what Jude did was that big a deal, because to me it was a big pressure game for him. It's the first time he'd started in England international since a defeat to Senegal in June, which prompted Tuchel to label his behaviour repulsive. It was a big game for him. His goal record for England isn't very good. Okay, he's only scored, I think, 4 times for England in 46 games. Going into the end of that game with Albania dead on the feet, a team that had given England a game, all of a sudden are wide open. Jude Bellingham is probably thinking, I might get something, I might get a goal here. He's pissed off about coming off. We've seen it before. We've seen other players do it. I saw him do it with my eyes, as Craig did. It's true. He did do it. He did do it again before he came off. But to me, I'm of the view that Tuchel should have left it alone in the press conference. Yeah. He should have left it alone. He put petrol on it. And that gave a small story a bit of life and another day of legs. And my view, very simply, before you move on, is that I think it's time to draw that line now between what Jude Bellingham has done under Thomas Tuchel and what he can do now going into a World Cup.
Nicholas Anelka had a little bit of this at international level.
Ronaldo in
at
Portugal.
The peak of his power, Ronaldo. Portugal scored 9 without him in the team, by the way.
So, you know, I just think we're at a point now where Jude Bellingham will go to the World Cup. Obviously, of course he will. And in my opinion, he should go to the World Cup. Yeah. He'll go to the World Cup. And I think that this environment of ultra micro focus on Jude Bellingham isn't going to help people between now and the start of the tournament in June.
Craig, being direct about it, do you have something against Jude Bellingham? You know, you've spent time with him, you've met him, strip all this away. You know, what's the measure of the bloke that you get when you're in his company?
Not at all. I'm a reporter. I'm a journalist. I don't know him. He's never sat down with us, and that's perfectly fine. That's his decision. Someone yesterday sent a piece back to me that I wrote, I think it was less than 18 months ago, and it was absolutely gushing about Jude Bellingham. So, you know, in the past, on the record, I've spoken about my admiration of him as a player, and there's a really impressive young man. But just to go back to something Ian said there, I actually think we're being bogged down by the arms being thrown in the air. I don't think it's about that, because in isolation, that really is, it's okay. It's about what it says to Jude's mindset, is to everything Thomas Tuchel asked him to do, to buy into that collective, to not send a message to teammates that makes it about you, that leading man syndrome that we do know he has, that can be both strength and weakness. What does it say to Morgan Rogers on the sideline? And Thomas Tuchel touched on that as well. So for me, let's not be sidetracked by the throwing the arms in the air, the protesting against the sub. It's the risk and that threat of something else happening down the line that again causes this distraction that Ian quite rightly says is unnecessary. It's about the dynamic of Jude Bellingham in camp. And you've got to trust us as journalists that we know coming out of Euro 24, and this has continued, there are issues there. There are concerns in the camps. Without Jude Bellingham in September and October, we're led to believe that a clear hierarchy emerged. Harry Kane, Declan Rice, they were free to lead. There was contentment there. There was a structure. Everyone knew where they stood. When Jude comes back in, I think it knocks that off balance a little bit. And you've got to trust us as journalists, knowing that and speaking to contacts and being around it. Thomas Tuchel is so aware. England camp is almost like a big brother house with Thomas Tuchel. They've got a metric whereby socially and how they interact with each other, they'll score each player. It's fascinating stuff. Thomas Tuchel is so big on that. You've only got to listen to him at any point in the past 6 months to realise that. That is why I think the Jude Bellingham issue, shall we call it, is worth exploring and is important to explore.
I'll just say something to take Craig back to the start of his analysis. His first answer when he talked about the booking, Craig, because that's clearly why he took him off, because he'd been booked. I had a look on the train coming down this morning. So Jude Bellingham has played 46 times for England. In the first 25 games for England, he was never booked. In the 21 that have followed, he's been booked 8 times. Now that's either a massive coincidence or that indicates a change.
A discipline.
A change in Bellingham's discipline. And as we all know, and we found out to our cost before with England, in instance we don't need to revisit, those things really matter in big tournaments. Discipline really matters in big tournaments. Yeah.
Mark, as an England fan, what's your take? Will Jude Bellingham go to the World Cup, do you think?
Yeah, it's great to listen to Craig and Ian in the way they view it, because you have been in the camp. We haven't been in the camp, have we? But you only look at it as a player, and I get it that for sure he's definitely going to go, because you can't leave the quality of Jude Bellingham out. We've discussed this previously about Bellingham's behaviour when he was playing for Real Madrid. He's been suspended many times, and the way he gets in referees' faces, the way he acts has always been something that I've analysed, and I'm thinking, is it frustration? Is it somebody that thinks he's too big? Because when you're dealing with these type of players, you think, why are they always complaining? But I look at, for example, Jude Bellingham, and I think as a young player, sometimes young players, when they're not performing to the highest level, they get frustrated. And I think it could be a little bit of frustration from him thinking, I still can offer something in the game. I want to get on the score sheet. I want to stake my claim, because he was under interview, wasn't he? Basically, in Albania, he was on interview. But then Jude Bellingham has to have people around him. Is it his father? Whatever. He needs to have good people around him to say, look, you're on notice here. Behave yourself like Beckham did when the world was against David Beckham when he got sent off against Portugal. What did David Beckham do when he came back? Kept his head down, didn't speak. He was the model professional. Jude Bellingham could have been the model professional, and he chose not to.
And he still can be. He's 22. He's 22
yeah, but it's just naive. Sometimes young.
And another.
I was young when I was young referee.
When we talk about discipline, and the other thing that concern that Thomas Tuchel has about Jude is not just discipline in the broader sense, but positional discipline. Because he's spoken about it. He's spoken about it privately. He has concerns about the way that Jude plays the role on the field, the way he tends to be attracted towards the ball, because he knows he's the best player. The best player always wants the ball, just like in the schoolyard, okay? And Tuchel has concerns about that as well. So, but, you know, we've got 6 months now before the World Cup, and I just think, without wanting to be like some kind of dreadful cheerleader, it is kind of time now to put some trust in the manager, and just to put some trust in Bellingham, to have listened to the things that the manager has said to him, to have read the room, and to turn up in America in June as the player that we need him to be.
Just finishes it.
And that's the biggest thing, tournaments. You know, it's all right going to Albania for 2 days, 3 days, or being in St. George's for 3-4 days. A tournament for a month.
7 weeks, this will be.
We've talked about Jack Grealish, we've talked about Anthony Gordon, we've talked about all these players who struggle in tournaments to integrate within a group, being able to not get bored, being able to perform at the right time, even if you're just a squad player, to encourage the other players. And Jude Bellingham has to fit into that puzzle. If he doesn't fit into that puzzle, Thomas Tuchel's got a big problem.
From pre-camp in Florida, if they get to the final, which is obviously a big if, it's 7 weeks, mate. It's a 5-week tournament.
It's a tough one.
Important context as well.
The same for journalists. I'll be showing a house review that's intense.
Let him pay for the food this time.
There's no chance of me making the final.
The thing, there's a bit of context here, by the way, because I think Real Madrid, I've seen him play. I saw him in El Clasico, and he was petulant all the way through the game. I saw him play. Right. I don't think it's specific to England. I think he's just a petulant guy. And I think you're right, Mark. There's a bit of frustration there. The second bit I can offer is just a bit of insight. I was working with the VP of brand for Adidas the other night, Chris Walsh, and he did the Hey Jude campaign. And he spoke so fondly of Jude Bellingham as a bloke and the way he behaved around all of his staff and all the people involved. I thought that did speak. I thought that spoke very kindly.
And you do hear those stories.
Yeah,
you do hear those stories.
I think it's just a 22. And also, by the way, again, wider context, young footballers now, I think that's natural behaviour to be petulant like that. And it comes back to management, as you say, Craig, it's how you manage a player.
Okay, there were 25 other players in the squad over the weekend who didn't show any petulance or make a story about them. So, you know, they have bought into everything Thomas Tuchel is about, and he's at pains to stress that. So
you're always going to have a maverick, don't you? You're always going to have a maverick in the squad, don't you?
Yeah. I know the point Ian makes, and ultimately what Ian's opinion on whether Jude goes or I think he goes, you know, at the World Cup doesn't really matter. But what we've got to focus on is Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel said to us after the game that he's going to go in and review the situation. Now, we don't yet know the outcome of that review. We know that Thomas has got concerns about Jude's conduct on the pitch and perhaps an integration around the group dynamic in camp. So until Thomas Tuchel returns the findings of that review in his own mind, there is a question. And that is the point and the crux of this. Why are we answering this question again? The question was answered 9 days ago at the squad announcement. That was when the line was drawn under it. Jude Bellingham, by his actions with 6 minutes to go, even if they were minor, even if you can pass them off as frustration, they have brought this back to the fore. That is the reason we're following up on it. And it's with justification.
Craig, it's brilliant to speak to you. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll let you get back to safety.
Yeah, cheers, guys. I'm going to find there's a nuclear bunker in Newcastle somewhere.
Right, now then, boys, before we get back to it, a bit of a shout out to our partners at Wix Trade Pro, because I found myself in the middle of a bit of DIY. I was putting some shelves up and I was short of wall plugs, which is not where you want to be, Ian.
Classic. Let me guess. You jumped on the app?
Exactly that, Ian. The rapid delivery thing is fantastic. I had what I needed within 3 hours, saved the day.
What, 3 hours? That's quicker than some VAR decisions.
True that. And the beauty of it, Trade Pro members save 10% every time they shop, in-store or online. No minimum spend, no faff.
Yeah, it's built to save tradespeople time and money, and it's proper handy if you're caught short midway through the job and you need some extra kit.
So if you're in the trade, download the Wix Trade Pro app and sign up today.
That's Wix Trade Pro, helping you get the job done without the last-minute panic. Right, the good, the bad and the barmy and whistleblowers. It's Mark Clattenburg's chance to point out inadequacies in refereeing, which Ian feels quite... I love your position on refereeing because there isn't enough respect. But there is something going on at the moment, Mark. Do you think there are enough top-tier referees in English football to handle the top-tier games?
Yeah. It's nice, actually, to have Ian back face-to-face, because I know he's not going to agree, where Andy Dillon... He's standing, always just agreed with everything I said. So.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, that's like he's getting invited back.
Yeah. But no, it's interesting because we've had an international break, which nothing's really happened regarding refereeing. But Ian made a great point that Michael Oliver is the focal point of the appointments this round, because he's got the big match, the marquee match, which is going to be Arsenal-Tottenham, North London derby. And it's interesting... Ian highlighted before the podcast that Michael Oliver hasn't refereed Arsenal for over 10 months after he incorrectly sent off Lewis Skelly.
How common is that, by the way, the 10 months? You know, a referee...
It happens. It can happen. Yeah. So my experience, and Everton fans will quickly remind us, when I had a poor game against Liverpool in a derby game where I think I went 6 years without refereeing Everton, and the longer it went on, the harder it became. And after the 6 years, I was appointed to referee Everton away from home at Aston Villa, and it was tough, mentally tough, because the focus was on me. If I'd give Everton a penalty, Aston Villa would say he's only give a penalty to try and even things up. The mentality of people would always say that. And what's interesting with the Michael Oliver situation is the PGMOL who make the appointments, whoever it is, and I'm not sure it's Howard Webb, because Howard Webb overlooks the whole of the organisation. There was Hugh Dallas, for example, is now within the PGMOL, so I'm sure he's got some influence on the appointments. To wait 10 months and appoint him to the marquee game, which is the derby game, is just flawed. It's flawed in that Michael Oliver could referee, no disrespect to your Brentfords or your Sunderlands or your Bournemouths or your Leeds or your Burnleys, your Newcastles. No disrespect to them, but it's a wonderful opportunity to integrate them back.
I think Michael Oliver is an excellent referee. I really do.
One of the best.
Yeah, I agree with that. But this is a flawed decision by PGMOL. They've just given themselves a problem or potential problem that they really don't need. They've put Michael Oliver in a situation that he really doesn't need. And I can't really, it's one of those ones where you just, you try and work out the process by which it would be signed off and you can't really work it out. I remember many, many years ago, blimey, probably 20 years ago, being at a game at Manchester United where Manchester United lost at home to Portsmouth, might have been in the FA Cup, lost 1-0. Alex Ferguson afterwards was so upset with decisions, he didn't do the interviews. Carlos Queiroz, remember Fergie's number 2, did the interviews, and he called Martin Atkinson a robber. He's a robber. That was a phrase that he used. Martin Atkinson didn't referee at Old Trafford for so long after that, and that I thought it was absolutely scandalous that whoever was appointing referees back at that time had been allowed themselves to be influenced by the fact that Manchester United were pissed off with them. I thought that was wholly wrong. In this instance, Mark, what I want to know from you is, if you're in Michael Oliver's shoes and you've made what we all agree was probably a bad call, sending Lewis Skelly off at Wolves, and I remember it was a huge story at the time. Would you want to go back to an Arsenal game as soon as possible, principle being fall off your bike, get back on your bike, or would you think, no, I need a break from refereeing that club? I'm pretty sure that what you wouldn't want was your next game for that club to be the North London derby.
What
would you have wanted for
It's
your
going to be a
sake?
tetchy derby.
It was interesting with me because mine wasn't. Wait,
Well, what would you have wanted?
Mine was a poor judgment call. If you remember back in 2012, Chelsea-Manchester United, the infamous game where I was accused of being a racist by Oba Mikel. And it was interesting that, yes, I had a month off because mentally I wasn't ready for football. However, within the following month, I was appointed to referee Chelsea at home. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't Chelsea against Arsenal. It wasn't Chelsea against Manchester United. Mm-hmm. It was Chelsea against a mid-table side that they were expected to win because they were, one of the stronger teams. They're at home, and I ended up giving a penalty to Chelsea with gritted teeth because of what they did to us. However, I had to be professional. Referees are always good. Michael Oliver will be the same at the weekend. Yeah. He will be very, very professional. But you want to be appointed within the next month. You're not the following week, not 2 weeks. But there's times where, and I've been head of refereeing in Greece, I've been head of refereeing in Egypt. And what you do is, if you've got a club that are furious with the refereeing, we've seen it recently where clubs have written to the PGMOL complaining about refereeing, complained about this referee. We're not having this referee at a club. Nottingham Forest did it last season with Stuart Atwell. And that sends a bad message that the clubs can control the appointments, because if you don't really like a referee person, you could just write a letter and say, look, I don't want this referee. And you're not going to have him for 10 months. So theoretically, indirectly, you're making the appointments yourself. The clubs can handpick the referees, which is wrong. I think Michael Oliver should have been easily given an appointment with Arsenal. That would have ended this stupid debate that we're having over the weekend, that Michael Oliver has not refereed Arsenal for 10 months. If you analysed Arteta at Arsenal when he's in the home stadium, he whips the crowd up. He's trying to get he's prowling the touchline. He's trying to whip the crowd up at certain points to get the atmosphere going.
Having worked at Forest, though, do you think that's the tactic that he'll exploit? It's like, right, first time back here in 10 months, put the referee under pressure.
100%.
Make him make a decision.
But the thing is, and he's not stupid and naive, Michael Oliver's a very experienced referee, Champions League, and domestically in the Premier League. He's so experienced. It's not like you've got a guy who's 2 years into the Premier League.
So he'll be all right with that, you think?
Michael Oliver's such a strong character, and he'll just forget about all of the noise and he'll try and referee the best he can. This derby, I think, is one of the most exciting derbies I used to referee because it was a really good football match. It wasn't the hatred. It wasn't the dynamics of the northern derbies, for example. This derby was, yes, both clubs want to win. There's the bragging rights. Yeah. But it was a nice football match. Yeah. But going just going on to the next point, I just quickly want to raise. This is where the issues are starting to raise from the Premier League and PGMOL. Is when I was in the Premier League, we had 24 referees, and gradually over time they've whittled them down the numbers, maybe for financial because of the budgets and the way the contracts are. The numbers are dwindling. The experience is getting less because the experienced guys like Atkinson that you've just mentioned, Mariner, Dean, all of them left the group in such a short period. I left, Webb left, Dowd left. All of your top referees that could referee any Premier League game have gone. Now you've only got 3 or 4 referees that are capable of refereing these top matches. Would you ever go back? Me? I can't run now, I'm 50.
I was going to say, right.
No, it's not about not coming back. I've said too much, so there's no way back. But would I want to go back? Definitely not now. Not with this. Social media was a big problem when I left, but it's worse now. And you know what? And we'll go back to what we talked about previously. The referee's decision isn't final anymore. Nobody accepts the referee's decision.
I'd like to have you in the VAR hub, though, and that's a serious point. No reason why retired referees can't be VAR officials.
But I've said another thing, Ian. I would go one step further. I would have a referee in and an ex-player.
Oh, bollocks to the right.
I think
players don't know the bloody rules, mate.
It's not about the rules.
It's one of the great myths of football. That
it's not about the rules. It's not about the rules, because one of the worst things for a referee is knowing the rules but don't understand the game. If you can get a referee that can know both and have a slight understanding of the game, Your decisions get accepted more. When some decisions don't get accepted, in law, we can argue, and we've had this argument about the offside goal of Van Dijk. I've listened to a lot of music over the last 2 weeks about this goal. Some people are saying it's a goal, some are saying not. I can make an argument under an interpretation of the law that says it could be offside because he's ducked. What does the football world want? The football want a goal, don't they?
I'm with you on this, by the way. I think there is a way to do it where you have an ex-player there, but once he's retired, you send him on courses. This is your job. Go and understand the law as well. You know, there are enough articulate, capable footballers who understand the game who can learn, you know, the legal side of the law of the game. I think that could be quite an interesting way to do it.
I don't buy it.
I do. I think you need to have I agree with you. I think you really need to understand the game, and sometimes that can be lost.
I tell you what, one of the best referees in the Premier League is Craig Pawson. Probably ranked 5, 6, whatever he is in the group. Very good and very nice guy. Very good referee. He knows the law inside out, but he doesn't understand the game. You watch him run around, and I can see as an ex-referee, he runs around and he doesn't make decisions because he doesn't understand, but he knows the law.
Well, talking about the football, though, because again, going back to the Arteta thing, I said at the beginning of this podcast that I thought Spurs had finished 5th this season, and Thomas Frank's been a bit up and down, hasn't he? So it's a big game for him, isn't it? And Spurs fans are beginning to get a little bit tetchy about Thomas Frank, aren't they?
I would suggest, given that Tottenham finished 17th last season and that they're currently 5th, then Thomas Frank hasn't really been up and down. He's been up. 12 spots. My rudimentary high.
Are Spurs fans just hard to please?
State school mathematics.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think Spurs fans are hard to please. I've got a soft spot for Tottenham, simply because it's like in football or in journalism, Gordon, when you know a few people at a certain point, you know, and it's been like that with me for Tottenham over the years, and I love going. They've got a fabulous stadium and all the rest of it. So I'm slightly invested in how they do. I was when Postecoglou was there, and I certainly are now that Thomas Frank's there, who I like very, very much. And I think there's a whingy, not even a word, a whingy element to the Tottenham support at the moment, just because they, like everything, they had their spirits raised at the start of the season with a good start, and now, of course, things have levelled, which they would do, given that 2 of their best players, Kulusevski and Maddison, and their only real centre forward, Solanke, are not available through injury. Take that into account. The fact they've got a new manager, the chaos of last season. Why on earth would you expect everything to be on a steady upward curve under a new manager? Of course, it's going to be up and down. Tottenham fans don't seem to be able to deal with the down parts of it. So the last game, or was it the last game they played, or a couple of games when they played against Manchester United, and Frank's substitutions are booed. Then lo and behold, one of the subs assists a goal or scores a goal. They moaned last year because, they loved Postecoglou at the start because his football was great and open. Then they disliked him because his football was open. So now they've got a bloke who plays more rigid and organised. So they win the first game of the season. They say, this is brilliant. He's rigid and he's organised. And now that they're not winning every game, they're moaning at him because he's rigid and he's organised. But what do you want, guys?
Yeah, but do you not think as a fan, it's interesting because I'm only looking at as a Newcastle fan. And even if Sunderland weren't in the Premier League and Newcastle we've done all right in Champions League. Yeah, we're in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup. Yeah, we're not doing so well in the league, but that can change in a month. But we're probably a little bit disillusioned because Sunderland are doing well. And I feel it's the same with Spurs. You've just made a valid point. From 17th to 5th is a huge improvement. Yeah. But because Arsenal are doing unbelievable, it feels, if Arsenal win mid-table, I think Tottenham would be happy.
Do you know the thing I've noticed about Spurs is injuries? I felt like the narrative for Spurs all of last season was about their injury list. And here we are again. I think 11 players are out. Kulusevski, Gray, Basuma, Maddison, Solanke, Bergvall, Moani, Kudus. That's a start in 11.
So how does that? I didn't realise it was that many.
That's 11.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was that many.
So how does that happen then? How every year, you've just said 2 years, and Arsenal are now starting to have problems as well themselves.
Yeah, they are.
Is it just the London air, or what is it then? New stadium? What's going on with these so many injuries?
I'm trying to grasp something clever to say.
Well, Arsenal, by the way, Arsenal got 7 out, so 3 of them are called Gabriel. Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Odegaard, Havertz and Madueke. That's good players. But did you said something really interesting to me about the turf?
I always, when I refereed at Emirates, for whatever reason, I don't know what footballers used to think, but certainly used to happen to me, I used to always get cramp.
That's fascinating,
late in games. I remember one of my first games was against Liverpool and I got cramp. I got hit with a ball and I cramped up. And ever since that, I always got cramped. But the pitch was an unbelievable pitch, but it was rock hard underneath. It was like running on concrete, where some pitches have a bit of give in it. Arsenal's never had any give in it.
Talking about pitches,
Really interested in that.
Very lucky, fortunate to be spend a bit of time with Tony Pulis last week, former Stoke and West Brom
legend,
Crystal Palace manager, for an interview that's yet to be published. And he was talking about the times when Arsenal used to hate coming to the Britannia because Wenger couldn't stand the long throws.
Rory Delap loved it.
Exactly. And Wenger, called Stoke a rugby team, actually called for throw-ins to be banned.
Ryan Shawcross.
And Pulis's point was that this was all grist to our mill because we just played on it. He said, he said, every time Arsenal came, we'd do the same thing. We'd narrow the pitch slightly. And what we'd do is, he said, the grass would be long, but a couple of hours before the kickoff, we'd get the groundsman to go on with his heavy roller and he'd flatten it. So when Wenger and his players came out at 1 o'clock to kind of do the walk around, they'd be thinking, pitch is better this time. They've cut it's shorter. And then, of course, they'd come out for kick-off and all the grass had kind of stood up. That's amazing. And then apparently Fergie said to Pulis after one game, which I think United had won, because United tended to do well at Stoke because they were better equipped mentally to deal with it. But apparently Fergie came in one day and said, "Blimey, Tone," he said, I know you like the grass to be long, but I was a bit surprised when I saw a rabbit pop up by the corner flag."
Brilliant.
And he said, just to not to labour it, but Pulis subsequently, when he was doing coaching stuff, when he'd finished, he said he was doing a coaching thing at the in Wales, and Patrick Vieira and Jens Lehmann, the former Arsenal players, were on it. They were getting their coaching badges, and Pulis did a session, and he saw the two of them in the corner and thought, "Oh, blimey, these two are going to give me stick." Anyway, they came up afterwards and said, "Look, thanks for your session, enjoyed it." They got chatting, and they admitted to Pulis that the only time, really, that Wenger used to spend the whole week on the training pitch at Arsenal in the latter years was before they went to Stoke.
That's a real compliment.
He said he got obsessed. He became obsessed.
It's a compliment, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, massive.
And it was always a hard place to go.
And of course, who are using the throw-ins now?
Yeah.
Arsenal.
But it's just gone back to that old ways, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And now Arsenal are doing it, and they're getting
Told
awards.
me that the reason that Rory Delap was so good at long throws was that he was, I don't know if it's true, that he was double jointed. And he used to be a javelin champion in Cumbria. Now, obviously,
that sounds like somebody's at it on Wikipedia to me.
I googled it, obviously.
Oh, that's reliable.
And he was a javelin champion at school. I don't know if he was double.
Was Danny Higginbottom pretty good at the throw-ins as well?
It was Delap, and
Rory Delap did most.
They discovered it. He said they got promoted out of the Championship, and apparently Fergie and a couple of other managers at Pulis said to him, "Look, Tony, you're going to have to find something because the Premier League is different gravy. Yeah. You're going to have to find something special." And one day at training, it was a complete coincidence, one day at training, he was just finishing off and putting the stuff away, and his assistant came up to him and said, "Gaffy, you've got to come down and look at this." Yeah. 6 of the players just had a bet, 20 quid bet. Come on, let's see who can throw it the furthest. Come on, let's have a game. Yeah. Just one of the things that players do. Delap was throwing it from one side of the one touchline off the pitch at the other side. Pulis was like, Pulis was like, I had no idea we could do it. It came off the back of a bet in training.
So you can imagine in my head, I'm refereeing at the Britannia against Arsenal most of the times, or United, and Rory Delap's about to run right across the field to take a throw in, and all I'm thinking is, shit, it's going in the penalty area. There's going to be arms and legs and everything going in.
Is that one of the hardest things to referee, by the way, is this what we would call the Stramash in Scotland, in the box?
The scrum.
Bodies there.
It's horrible, because when the ball goes in the box, that's the penalty area. That's the worst feeling, because you've got all of the scenarios to deal with.
It's got ridiculous.
It's horrible. Yeah, but you say it's ridiculous, but you look at Sunderland, for example. Sunderland's opening game against West Ham, set play and headed goals and everything else. If Southampton the previous year got the least points because they tried to play football from the back, Ipswich tried the same from the football.
Yeah. No, Mark, I've not got a problem with
I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it.
You misunderstand me. I'm talking about all the shirt pulling and barging and blocking in the box.
But I love how football's changing again.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, good old traditional blood and thunder. Right, that's it for the latest episode of Whistleblowers. Remember, you can email us if you want to get in touch, whistleblowers@dailymail.com. The social channels, on X @BlowersPod, where Craig Hope's very popular, and on TikTok @Whistleblowers Podcast, Instagram @WhistleBlowersPod. Mark, would you please pull everything to a logical conclusion and blow the full-time whistle, please? Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, episodes every Thursday and Tuesday, and on a Sunday, you'll get our clip of the week.